All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you. So I'm glad that many of you came back after us crowding into the smaller room last month, and now we're crowding into this room. So enjoy the tables. This will probably be the last meeting with the tables. So, all right. There's a lot of new faces here that I don't recognize. So why don't we go around and introduce ourselves? I am Jason McCormick. My call sign is NAEI.
While you are doing that, make sure that sign-in sheet keeps moving back and forth here, because if you're not on that sheet, you weren't here.
And we don't give you credit.
No credit.
Hello, everybody. My name is Scott. My call sign is Kilowatt Delta 8 Romeo Whiskey X-ray.
Good evening, my name's John, and I'm a visitor with you this evening. And my call sign is KA8GKG, and I'm from Akron.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a new member. I'm Rick Niemer, N8NOQ, November Oscar, Quebec. Hear me on your repeater.
From Seville?
No, I'm from Akron, Fairlawn.
Okay.
I think you're the only one from Seville, Bill.
No, there's somebody else. You and the far side.
My name is Stefan, and my call sign is November 8 Whiskey Bravo.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm Jeff, Whiskey 8 Tango Bravo.
Mike, Kilo Delta 8 Tango Quebec uniform from Doylestown, Ohio.
I'm Gary, AA8CS, and I'm not president anymore.
Nice. Yay!
Everybody's happy.
Hi, my name's Gary, WB8CGB from Wadsworth.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I'm Ken, Digital Dorsey.
Yes, you are.
KA8OAD from Fairlawn. And I'm Mike from Seville. Kilowatt Echo 8, or Webex Whiskey Echo.
All right.
And I'm still so cool, so I don't know how to.
You've come to the right place. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I am Whiskey 8 Echo Lima Mike, and Gary's always telling how we're the best looking hams in the business. So I don't know if that-
Yeah, from the paper. Yeah, field day.
Publication.
If you haven't seen that, that's on our club website. That was an article that was done. It's in the Wayne County Bargain Hunter that visited our field day and the Wayne Amateur Radio Club's field day. And Eric and Aaron Frazier and I forget who else was there. Is that Russ?
McQuaid over
Yeah, they're like the front page of the Bargain Hunter in full color.
And they said Eric was a bargain, so.
Well, they like to shine from the page.
All right, we got to move on. We got to move on, Benny.
Benny Morosky from Doylestown, KC8 DEO. And by the way, I did pick up another newspaper. This is actually from the Vindicator in Youngstown, and this was they had a publication, ham radio, from the Mahoning Valley Amateur Radio Association. They had an article in their paper, so I just happened to get a hold of that. So
Nice.
it was out there.
Cool.
I'm Teresa Dickerson. I don't have a call sign yet, but hopefully.
Well, welcome.
I'm Lane, KD8JJF.
I'm Jaden, W8UA. Landon, KE8FAE.
Rod, W8JAX.
Where's the dog?
Yeah, where's Lucy?
Where's KE9LUCY?
Halfway through the meeting, you would have got hungry and wanted to dance.
I might get hungry halfway through the meeting. Go ahead, Fred.
Fred, KD8QFT. Medina.
Uncle Fred.
Wade, WD8MIU.
Neil Brown, WD8LLA, Brewster, Ohio.
Hey, Neil.
A new member.
We're just gonna clap. For
I know, we are gonna. People we've never seen before.
I'm a new member, no call sign yet. Will be soon.
All right, you were fielding, right?
Unfortunately, I'm his wife.
Nice.
I'm getting my call sign.
All right.
My name is Mark. My call sign is KEASFS, and I'm a new member.
Larry, WPA-LF.
Where you from, Larry?
I am from the planet
Arcon. Nice.
I'm masculine.
Absolutely.
Bill, 88 Hotel Electric Victor from Philly.
The village.
Silly. Doug, Kilo Echo 8, Juliet November Hotel from the Rittman area.
Kilo Charlie 8 Hotel Delta Papa, Jerry from Tree.
Thanks for making the trip.
I gotta say, I really have to say that, Jerry, if you notice the way he gave his call sign, that's the way you're supposed to give your call sign when you're checking into a net. Do it again, Jerry.
Kilo Charlie 8 Hotel Delta Papa.
Yay! Yes.
That's what it is, Jerry. That's what
You have to go slow so you can hear.
I'm Randy, KDA CSH from Akron.
Nice, nice, Randy.
I'm Russ, KVH BYT from Akron. I sell the 50/50s, and if you know what's good for you, you'll buy more. About $20.
Would you get commission?
Yes.
There's always a slight suspicion about what's going on.
This is the biggest pop we've ever had, so you wanted me in.
Well, if I get suspicious, he wins.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Don.
look, I won.
You're up.
It's Don, ACAN, and I'm the last, believe it or not, the last of the founding fathers of this book.
I think you scared Jason. He just said founding fathers and he left.
Larry, KJ6, SET, recently right there from West Coast. Don't have an agenda.
Welcome home.
All right.
John from Marshallville, NADRD.
Ed Barberton, KAA-LYM.
Ryan, KEA, SDQ, Ashland.
You say SQQ?
SDQ.
SDQ. All right.
Bill Tan for PYE, relatively new again, my first time as well.
Bill.
Are you listening, Jerry? Kilo Foxtrot 8 Golf. Ryan from Norton.
ATF.
I'll be running the 6-meter net on Marty's repeater. Check in, guys.
KAG what?
Is that Brian? Is that the? Are you bringing back the 6-meter, the Sunday 6-meter net?
It's been going.
Oh, is it been
I'm
going?
in control. I think Jason's next.
Oh, okay.
nice.
All right. All right. Good.
Check in.
NTAD Dave from Compton.
Nice, dude.
Kilo Delta 8, Sierra Lima Golf, Jake from Orton.
KD8 EPC Dustin from Edina.
KHBJW, Bill Westberg.
All right.
Cool.
All right. The secretary should note that that's a world record number of introductions.
Yes, it is.
For a SARA meeting. So, but welcome everybody. It is great to see everybody. I know a number of new faces. We had some people I know that were at field day that joined us. So welcome. This is our agenda for this evening. Obviously, when we get to new business, if other people have new business, they can do that. and we'll have some special topics this evening. Very interactive meetings. If you need to join us, you don't have to just sit there and listen. I'm sure someone, Gary, will probably make fun of me at some point here in the beginning part of the meeting. So,
Never. Has
Yeah.
that ever happened
in the last 5 minutes.
in the last 5 minutes?
All right. But very interactive. If you have questions, you don't understand something, you're not sure what we talked about, just raise your hand and we'll be happy to do that. But we do have some of the perpetual boring business of the club. So the first thing is I did distribute the June minutes. Was there any comments or corrections on the June minutes?
Other than the date? No,
That was the agenda. See, Benny, I created the agenda. Our excellent secretary made sure that the minutes are correct.
Okay.
I'll take a motion to approve the minutes then.
Motion to approve NAWB.
Stefan, a second.
I'll second.
Scott, KD8RWX. All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Anyone opposed to approving the minutes? And you have to express why you oppose approving the minutes. And then Eric will make you the secretary. All right, the minutes are approved. Mr. Royer, tell us about the money.
All right, statement beginning balance, as you see, $58,1391. We did have some expenses for field-based snacks. We did do one thing special and provide a Barometer Net T-shirt for a longtime net controller, KD8 CDS. We also had a very generous donation to SARA from Whiskey Victor 3 Kilo. We definitely appreciate that. We did collect dues in the form of web and cash, and at the bottom check there during this last month. And we did have sales from Field Day T-shirts, and also collection from the very popular Barometer Net T-shirts. So we have a ending balance of $68,2887 with $3,000 allocated to repeater maintenance and any kind of emergency that we would have.
Yeah.
So, comment.
Yes.
The reason why you got so many people here is because you got an awesome review.
Thank you. Well, then that is one of our, that is one of the staples of the club. And just to expand on that a little bit, for those who don't know, one of our goals with, attempting to, our dues is our primary means of fundraising. Then we do, a couple of apparel sales. Those are really how the club makes money. But, the reason we do this is, this is about what it would cost if we had a catastrophic failure, well, not catastrophic failure, a near catastrophic failure of the repeater. This would cover a new radio, power supply, antenna, duplexer, those kind of things. Obviously, if we had to replace hard line up the tower, that's a different problem. But our goal here is to maintain a fund that if something happens to it, we can very quickly get, without having, to beg for money, we can get it back on the air. We also have some spare hardware between me and John and HCD and a couple others, if we had to put something in as an emergency. So the goal is to keep that on the air, and for people to use it.
Mm-hmm. And a little more history there. We did have to beg for money at one time to get our repeater back on the air, and that's why the club made a specific cause of getting this repeater fund, so that we could, if there was a catastrophic failure, to use your words, that we could cover that without having to beg for money. So that was the whole idea.
Near catastrophic.
Near.
Yeah. If lightning destroys Marty's tower, we have a whole different level of problems.
Yeah, but think of all the metal we can sell.
Well, that's true. We can scrap it out. Go ahead, Tim.
I wanted to ask, is there a method or a process for increasing that amount in repeater allocation?
So the $3,000 is kind of based on if we had to go out and buy a new radio, new radio repeater unit, the duplexer, an amplifier, the things that connect that together. That's where that number kind of came from. It's not set in stone. Actually, John N8CD, he wasn't able to be here this evening. He actually just reran the calculations a couple months ago to make sure we were at the right level. So we're kind of keeping an eye on that. If radio costs go up or something like that, we would look at bumping that up.
But there isn't a way other than just, I think we need more money in there.
Well,
to come up with that.
We can. If you have a specific concern, we can definitely talk about it. Oh,
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
How much money, because that would be an interesting thing to see.
I'll just expand on that. John, N8CD actually did a whole analysis on what it would take for a near catastrophic replacement of equipment, and then actually rated things that we know statistically would have a higher failure rate, and those were bubbled up to the top, and that's where we came up with the $3,000 figure. So we're looking at the things that would be most likely to fail or have some kind of issue, and then we're putting that allocation there.
We go through an amp like once every 18 months for some reason.
Can I make a comment, please?
Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, that sounds like a very reasonable way to come up with a good number. I would simply say that it might be a good idea to pad that number by, say, 10 to 15, 20%, just because things are always a little bit more expensive, take a little bit more time, or a little more something than you planned for. So I think it's a great idea. I would just say maybe build in a little bit of a pad.
The other day, Hold on, I'm restarting. Restarting.
Where's the gavel?
Where's my squeaky gavel? You know what?
Yeah.
We'll take that up at the next executive committee. Well, John has the spreadsheet. We'll just kind of look at it.
You guys do the calculations.
Yeah. So, and the thing is as a club, we're trying to strike a balance here too, right? Because like we've gotten a lot of mileage recently out of. We've probably put almost $2,000 now into field day equipment. So, the club is known for its repeater, and we want to make sure we keep that in tip-top condition. But we're also looking to do a little bit more than we might have done in the past. So that's kind of the balancing act we're trying to come through here. Yeah.
If we go back a couple of years and look at the figures, we'd see significantly less in the general allocation there.
Yeah.
The money's there. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
How many members do you have now, total?
Jeff?
Stand by.
I think we just took in one tonight, didn't we? So.
You can hear the gears spinning.
Yeah, it's this is not the latest, but it's over 120.
Woo! It was 123 at field day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Plus
So
however
it's,
many we added.
I'd have to get the latest, but it's above 123 now. Yeah.
Yeah, what was it like 2 or 3 years ago?
2-3 years ago,
70,
probably
60, 70,
80 maybe.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Less?
4.
We've been on a crazy growth tear. I know for a fact that in January of 2020, because I checked when Dan Starcher called to do the article, we had, I think it was 79 members or 80 members on January 1st of 2020. So we've added 45 plus members in the last 18 months.
How long have you had like the All-Star node and all that kind of stuff?
Years. It's just gotten much more popular in the last year. Yeah. So I think, and we can talk about this. I think like some of there was a big push for DMR for a while. I think some people now are looking more at All-Star. It's what's interesting to people at the time.
Well, the reason why I asked is I'm moving to Florida, and I think that's a secret. And I bought the All-Star node primarily so I could talk to my friends up here.
Yep.
Is that going to be something that's regularly available?
It's 24/7.
Because I know for a while it was down, but I think you were doing some reprogramming or something.
Yeah. That's a long story, but yes.
Well,
Short story was
I didn't know if that was like a message that we're not going to have it all.
No. So I'm going to get to that tonight. Okay. So.
Excuse me for.
Yeah. No, you're good.
Getting ahead of me.
Yeah, good.
I want to personally thank Jeff for all the work he does. He doesn't get any real credit for this.
Thanks, Joe.
He's the man.
Thanks, Joe.
The big show, there was a round of applause for the treasurer.
Yes.
That's right.
This is the most we've ever talked during the treasurer's report.
That doesn't know what to do.
Everybody's like.
Did we accept the report?
Well, I expect my thing.
The SS Sarah.
Yeah.
Where'd Ken go?
Ken.
There you are. Go ahead, Ken.
Oh, okay.
This is your slide, man.
my
I
slide.
even got a picture. I got a picture and everything.
Okay, in case you haven't noticed, it's summer again. And in case you haven't noticed, there are people out again running like 10Ks and marathons and half marathons. Well, Summit County Aries, we always help with the Goodyear Half Marathon and the Akron Marathon. So this year's Goodyear Half Marathon is coming up on August 14th. We need people to help us with that marathon. It's really easy. All you have to do is stay at your station and just watch the runners go by. I need 4 people for aid stations. I need 4 people for water stations. And then I need other people just at mile markers just to make sure all the runners are safe and everybody's okay. Again, August 14th, and the Goodyear Half Marathon is completely sold out. They're expecting 3,000 runners at the marathon, at the half marathon. We will also be doing the Akron Marathon this year again. It's back online. That marathon is on the 25th of September. That's also a Saturday, so kind of keep that in mind. I don't have registrations yet for the Akron Marathon. I do have registrations open for the Goodyear Half Marathon. I'm going to kind of wait until we get that out of the way before I get the registrations open for the Akron Marathon so people don't get confused about which race they're running. So if you go to our website, is that up there? No, it's not.
You know what is not up there?
All right, if you go to www.summitares.org, there is a notice box right on the very front page. It has a link to the map so you can see what the course looks like. It's a little different this year, but not too much from previous years. If you worked it in the past and you want a specific spot, let me know when you sign up. There's a little comment box in the sign-up sheet that you can actually put a comment, go, hey, last year I worked mile 7. I'd really like that mile marker again. So just let me know. There's also a link in that notification box for the sign-up sheet. You just go out, sign up, and it'll ask you, for name, call sign, cell phone number, email address, and we'll get back to you and let you know. And again, if you worked it in the past and you want a specific spot, let me know that you want that spot, because if you don't, I may give that spot to someone else. Now, it does say it goes from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. 2 p.m. is like the latest. If you're on an early mile marker, let's say you're on mile marker 4, for instance, as soon as the last runner goes by, you can close your station up, secure your station, and leave. So you don't necessarily have to be there from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Most likely, with the exception of myself and a couple other people, nobody will be there from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. So just kind of bear that in mind. If you want to get up early and get a real early spot, then sign up for an early spot and you'll get out that much earlier. As soon as the last runner goes by, you're done. If you want to maybe get a later spot and be there a little bit later, then go for a later mile marker, and you'll have to wait until the rest of the runners go through. So,
can you give the website one more time?
It's www.summitares.org.
When we get our 50% discounts at the exit
Nice try. Yeah, it'll be nice when they have the store open again. Thank you.
All right. Some old business. Obviously, we had field day here. 4 weekends ago.
3 weekends.
3 weekends ago. We had a good time. There's a full write-up on the club website. I'm not going to go into all the details there. I would encourage you to check it out. We did have a great time. We ended up with a little over 2,500 points as our total score. I couldn't get people to operate for the first couple hours because it was like people hadn't seen each other because of the pandemic or something. But other than,
That's when the bands were kind of
Yeah.
available.
Yeah. So, but no, we had a really good time. We made a really nice mix of contacts. This is a picture of the antenna we used. This was, as we talked about when we were doing the treasurer's report, we've been trying to invest in some of the equipment with Field Day. This is sort of the culmination of that initial vision that we had a couple of years ago, where we want to run 5 simultaneous stations out of one antenna. So we've been investing in the both the triplexers and the line filters and all the feed cable. And then this year we added the rest of the pieces and the antenna and everything. Worked out really well. Setup was nice because we only had to set up one antenna. Well, Jamin set up a couple extra antennas, but in general we only set up one antenna, which was nice. And it worked very well. So next year, I don't know what we're going to do. We'll figure out something. So
Bigger and better.
Bigger and better. I did want to give out a special thanks to Russ, KD8VYT. Russ stepped up at the last minute to take care of the food situation. And somehow this was the only picture that we got of Russ during the entire day. So I wanted to put Russ in there, but it's not the best picture of Russ. But
He was mixing some special stuff in the food. Good food, by the way.
Yeah. Sure.
Does anybody, since everybody's here, does anybody know what happened to the third pan of bratwurst?
Oh, yeah, they were good.
I've decided that you imagined them, Russ. That's what I can come up with.
There was 3 pans, and the one that came missing had the most in it. And I have the buns left over because I have the same amount of sausage as I have.
They're probably still in the building, sitting there.
Oh, we tore the place apart.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Oh, yeah. We tore the place apart looking for them.
Are you kidding this crew for food? Yeah.
Oh, we
Look
would
for
have.
those
We would have
days.
found them. Yeah.
Bill and I split them and we broke them up into smaller.
Went fishing with them.
We took them down to room service.
Did you enjoy them?
Yes.
That's all that matters.
So a couple of the things I've served as the field day chair for the last couple of years. I cannot serve as long as Barry KIAB did. But I am going to, we're going to be looking as part of as an overall thing that the executive committee's been talking about as a way to get some more people involved in club leadership. We are going to be turning this over to someone else, and that someone else is really going to kind of head a committee on events. So it'd probably be out of the gate. Field day, potentially Ohio QSO Party, which is in August, and then Winter Field Day, which is in January. So if you're interested in participating in that, the goal is to kind of get one person to sort of be the liaison, so to speak, but then have a number of people that are participating. So if you're interested in that, that's something to think about. That's a good way to get involved. Planning takes some time, but you don't really have to go anywhere. You can kind of just do it from home when you have some time. You'll spend, field day weekend preparing, things like that. So it's a good way to get involved without, having to spend hours and hours every month. Yeah.
I will say Barry was not president while he was field day chair.
Okay.
But I mean, field day chair, it's a significant job because it's a major event for the club. So, but other than that, you do field day and then you can rest on the laurels or like herding cats.
Herding cats.
So we'll have more about that in the coming months. We're kind of still formulating what that's going to look like, but just throw that out there. If you have something, if you think you might be interested in that, let me, Stefan, one of the officers know, and we'll keep you in mind for that. Any other comments, thoughts, questions, feelings, emotions about field day?
It was a great field day.
Yeah,
it was.
We had, I think our sign-in sheet was well over 50 people had signed in, but that was not indicative of how many people actually came through our site.
Well, there had to be over 100 people.
Yeah, I mean, there was just tons of people there. And I'll say this, the overnight crew, we had 8. I mean, that's never happened.
No.
And it was just pretty unbelievable that we had the participation that we did. It was super. So I think we accomplished our goal.
We had fun.
And we ate. Fun and we ate well.
I may have caused some QRM with my story.
I went to my first field day last month where Gary and them were running. I had a good time.
Good.
My first time experiencing the ham radio and everything.
That was the point.
Yeah, and Mark just got his license in June. He just got his license.
Yeah.
Good deal.
I mean, it is kind of a little bit of a contest with the points, but really it is about getting people in the door, have fun, operate, so we have fun. We're nowhere near competitive. So we turn in the points like a good ARL affiliated club, but we're going to be way down the list when you get that, when the list comes out. So anything else? Did I see a hand? Okay. I thought I saw a hand. All right. Old business, family picnic. I know it's going to be August 29th, but I was going to let Stefan or Gary, if you guys have any more detail on that yet, or.
We have the same, Stefan reserved the same venue that we had, not last year, of course, but the year before. And it's a great venue. We're going to spice it up a little bit this time around.
Spice it up.
We're going to invite our canine friends. We have a number of them now. There's canine MAX, there's canine LUCY, and there's canine REX that I'm aware of. And I'm sure, well, there's also canine SARA. Who might that be? That's a surprise. Anyway, we have a whole lot of we have some ideas. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, same site, and it starts at 1.
And very family oriented.
Yeah, and we have it all day. So
and everybody's invited. It doesn't cost you anything. We will ask you to bring something to share. It could be some kind of dish or dessert or whatever. And we'll coordinate that too, so we don't get 17 bowls of baked beans. Although I love baked beans, mind you. My wife kind of hates them.
Yeah,
I love them.
we usually the club usually provides the meat-ish, whatever we're gonna do, chips, tableware, and then we'll have some drinks. But then we ask if people bring a side dish to share. And we always have way too much food.
It's going to be fun. Yeah.
So even if you don't want to bring anything, like not everyone can't not bring something, but if you don't want to make something, you don't want to. Go ahead, boss.
I have the utensils I had at the field day.
You what?
The baggie, the little cutlery I had left.
Okay.
The field day, I got a bunch of them.
Get those to Stefan.
I don't think those buns will last though.
No, you could freeze them, but
if you find the bratwurst, we don't want it.
Yeah.
I have all the chips, and I checked the expiration dates. They'll be good.
Cool.
Yes, it's at Silver Creek Metro Park, which is right down at the end of Medina Line, right at Eastern Road. It's very accessible. It's right, if you're familiar with the Metro Park, it's the main parking lot right by the beach access. The shelter's right there. So, yeah.
You like spicy stuff?
Yeah, we like spice. Yeah.
Jerk chicken.
There you go.
Jerk chicken takes 3 days to make it. Cooked over hickory.
Nice.
So you're a volunteer?
Wait a minute. Who said that?
How many people do you think are going to be there?
We'll take care of however much it takes.
Like I said, it takes half a week to make.
Yeah, you know.
Talk to Stefan or Gary.
Yeah.
We'll entertain menu ideas.
Yeah.
When it runs out, it runs out.
Yeah, and the Sherman shelter is right near the lake, so if you have a dog that likes to swim, it's a perfect place to throw a ball.
What's your past attendance for your family picnic? Because that give them an idea. I mean,
3 years ago, we had probably 80 people.
Yeah, it was.
But 2 years ago, I think we only had about 40 or 50.
Yeah.
But it was a blazing hot day that day too.
Yeah, it depends on the weather and
yeah,
you just don't know.
not rain and not boiling your skin off.
And that was 3 years ago when we had 70 members with 80 people. So
Right.
we have
Yeah.
100 members.
That's true too.
So we probably will, when we get a little closer, we'll survey and just get, so we can get an
Right.
idea of how many people plan on attending and how many people from the individual families
Yeah,
that
that's
will,
good.
will come.
I'm
And
assuming
then,
it's
so we have a
possible.
better idea of how much to overcook.
It really is a family picnic. I mean, whatever you consider your family is welcome.
Cool.
Absolutely.
And bring your $5 bills because there will be 50/50.
Russ doesn't go anywhere without a 50/50.
No, not anywhere. I think he goes to church with a 50-50.
All right. So I know that at least a few of you are here because we were talking about it. The club is having a focus, and it's going to go beyond November. But what we have mapped out for November so far. Obviously, this is the July meeting. We've got we end up with 2 topics tonight. I kind of combined the first 2 into one. In August, we're going to have some talk about building simple, useful antennas. A little bit about logging software. Not a deep dive in any of this. This is just sort of to get the thoughts flowing in people, and talk about QSLing. Both electronic and paper. So that's kind of interesting. We are going to be doing. I got to work out the details with Eric WD8KNL and me, and I think John N8CD, and I'll probably get Rick WB8UTW. We were piloting this, and Jeff W8TB. We were piloting this right before the fall, before the pandemic hit, and it worked out. We had a lot of fun. And then we were going to do it in the spring, and then COVID, like everything else. We actually have some test equipment, and we do far field efficiency testing. So I forget the math, but way over there, we'll put your antenna on a ground plate, and then we have a Yagi that points at it. And then we'll measure the signal, and we can tell you not just SWR, but like what the effective radiant power is. I think we inject it with 1 milliwatt or 1 picowatt or something.
Yeah,
some tiny little signal.
Very high-end equipment that they use. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. So basically, what we're going to do is bring whatever antenna we can fit on a plate. Basically, it has to fit on an NMO mount or an NMO mount with an adapter. So we're not going to stick up my Diamond 700, which is 20 feet tall, but handhelds, smaller antennas, things like that. And it's really interesting to see the different performance between all the different types of antennas. You'll quickly realize how bad the stock antenna on your HT is. Scott Yonley, he used to be the Ohio section manager, is now the vice director of the Great Lakes Division, which is Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, is coming in September. He's going to talk mostly about the ARRL, ham radio engagement in the United States, club membership, things like that. We're probably going to try to do another simple build project similar to the J-Pole. We've been getting some different suggestions and ideas. We're going to have to figure out exactly how we want to do that. Eric, again, he's actually coming in October. He's really interested in time. WWV is a radio station that's actually in Fort Collins, Colorado, that you can hear all over the country. If you've ever heard of your watch or whatever can be set by an atomic clock, it's actually this, and Eric's going to talk about that. And then we have Tom Sly, who is the current Ohio section manager. He's coming in November. He's going to talk about doing low power, which is what QRP means, low power portable operations, and some other reasons about upgrading the general. And then we're thinking about actually offering, I don't know if it would be a full-on class, but maybe like a support kind of come and ask questions to help people who want to move from technician to general class licenses. So probably talk about, we'd help you get the tools going. I don't think we would do a page-by-page class, but maybe have a couple of sessions of review and discussion, help people understand stuff. Any questions on any of that stuff?
I have a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Wade.
Some of your members are helping me with the Hall of Fame parade down in Canton. Most people don't realize it's like top 5 parades right there with Macy's and the Rose Bowl. And I have about 36 hams on the route. I've been doing this for 25 years. Of course, I'm passing the torch on to somebody else now, but I wanted to let you know that because I appreciate the help there. And of course, most of them are the newer hams. Dustin's one of them that's helping. The other thing, it's kind of a sore spot. You won't fight me back. Can we talk about the barometer or the Boredom Net and what was all excited around that? We didn't get to vote on that. The Boredom Breaker Net.
Yeah, part of that. Have been coming on between 1 and 3.
Yeah, there's a reason for that, but I mean, I don't know if this is the place to talk about that, but I just was wondering if.
Yeah, so we can talk about that. So so with the Boredom Breaker Net, the issue is that from a lot of member feedback, from what we were hearing, we did a survey on it. I don't know, like a month or 2 after we started carrying it, and to the membership. And the membership survey, we got a good response. The membership survey was very ambivalent at best about carrying it. There was some people who really liked it. Most people kind of rated it in the middle of don't care. And then there was a few very negative. Since then, the feedback to the executive committee that we've heard has been largely negative. There was some complaints about, why are we tying up the repeater with a net from Oklahoma? So what we decided to do was stop linking it at the current time. I knew the topic was going to come up tonight. I've heard from other people. Well, I think what we as a club need to talk about, and I don't know that everyone's prepared to have that conversation tonight, is, how much of linking do we want to do on 3.9 with that net? One of the things that John and I, for example, have kicked around is we had converted the UHF machine a couple years ago to Multimode digital. The interest in that has largely fallen away. Maybe we make that back to analog and make that like the net machine, like where we can carry something like the Boredom Breaker Net. There's different things we can do. Like I said, the feedback that we've been hearing was uniformly negative over the last 8 to 10 weeks.
I respect the officers making a decision, but usually they would go to vote with the club.
Not really. It never has before.
Because I hear the opposite. I'm hearing everybody saying, "Where's it at?" And it's like Mark said, "Where's it at?" Now I can get on with my all-star notes, so it's not a big deal to me. But I'm leaving too, so
yeah.
I just wanted to bring it up because a lot of people have asked, how come they didn't consult with us?
What's the story behind 685? What's that gonna get up?
It's not.
Okay.
There's too many problems getting out on the air.
Okay.
Because 685, we wanted to put on Rittman Water Tower, but when we went to OARC, we found out that it was specially coordinated and it had to be so low at a particular power level. And by the time we got through everything, we were just like, nah, we're not gonna bother. Yeah, Brian.
For your move, there is a phone app called DroidStar that gets on all the digital modes, DMR, System Fusion, the whole 9 yards. It's an app for your phone. It's free.
Yeah. So, one of the things we were thinking about is, do we want to put out a new poll to the membership and find out, what people want? Again, the interests have waxed and waned over the last couple of years. We had All-Star for years and no one really ever used it. And then people got really excited about digital, so we made 275 digital. That's kind of fallen away. So, one of the thoughts we had was, if there's a lot of people who still want to hear the nets, maybe we put it'd be very easy to put 275 back to analog, make that the net. That has almost as good as coverage as 3.9.
A lot of things run their course. I understand that.
Yeah.
This wasn't on very long. That's why it was kind of surprising.
It was originally a trial run anyway. That was never a permanent, we're going to do this, and then we decided not to. it was a trial run, and the temperament of the club basically said, we're not that interested in it. So, I mean, it wasn't,
You want
It
to
was
go to
given-
Oklahoma, get an HF license.
it was given due process, Wade. I mean, it was given due
I've
process.
had people ask me, not that I'm
Yeah.
anybody, but it's not very.
I talked to a lot of people, I haven't heard one person say, hey, Gary, I really missed that.
Anybody here miss it? I know, like I said, Dustin missed that too, and so do I, but again, we get into it with our stuff. So it's not a big deal to us, but it's people don't have.
Well, I think maybe what we'll do, again, is, I think maybe what we'll do is we can put out a survey again, and I think the questions will be, do people want more ability to link to other nets? And if so, what's the interest in the multimode machine? There's a small amount of use. I don't want to necessarily take that away from the people who are using it, but in the interest of the greater interest in the club, that's a possibility that we could do.
Yeah, the other thing, when there's people that monitor that repeat her all the time, they said earlier, anything between noon and 3 o'clock. So it's not like we're taking people, I mean, if it'd be an emergency or something, then obviously you can come down, but, people that monitor all the time say, well, I don't hear anything else in there during the time, very seldom. Because that's, people are working.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, the feedback we were getting was ambivalent to negative. What I would offer is we'll put together a survey and kind of get, poll the membership. I mean, I know personally, not that I don't care about this, but personally, the most feedback I've heard is from non-club members. And while, I want to cater to all amateurs,
No, you can't please everybody, actually.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do is we'll look at getting a poll out in the next week or two that just asks a couple questions on, did you like the Boredom Breaker Net? Do you want more of that kind of thing? And how much do you care about 275 being digital or not?
That'd be more of a democracy first thing that people that have their board on.
Cool.
A couple things. First off, the picnic. I just wanted everyone to know that Scott Gonley is a member of the club, and he comes to the picnic. He'll be there. I am positive he'll be at our picnic. What else was I going to say? Oh, no, in December, which is strangely missing on that slide, December we do not have a club meeting in December. However, we do have a Christmas party or holiday party, however you want to position it. And it is a lot of fun. We do have a lot of fun. We've never had this many members before, but it's. Not gonna fit that room. No, we're gonna have to maybe come to the library.
Can't have food. You
Can't have food here, yeah.
Darn it. Okay, we'll have to find another venue. But anyway, in December, it's always the second Thursday. You get any closer to Christmas than that, and everybody's busy. So I'm throwing that out now so that you can mark your calendars. We will have the SARA holiday event. Wow, was that something planned? But the SARA holiday event will be the second Thursday of December, and that is in lieu of the December meeting.
No venue though.
Not
No
yet.
venue yet.
We'll get a venue.
I gotta figure out who's gonna be open.
We'll get a venue.
Yeah, we'll get a venue. There's no question about that.
All right, I want to move us on here just because we have to be out of here at 8:45 because they start closing up the library at 8:45. So just a couple of notes. The executive committee did meet on July 13th, which was Tuesday. There was one of the topics was some of the other feedback that we've gotten from people is, what can I use the repeaters for? What are the nets for? What are the responsibilities? Now that we have, I think we have 10, 12, 13 net controllers. So the club adopted a standards for nets and net control for the club, and this is addressing specifically SARA nets. So nets that are branded as SARA with SARA net controllers. I'm not going to go into it. If you're really interested in it, you can go read about it. This is mostly for the net control people themselves. This document is not fixed in stone. This is not the Constitution or the bylaws. This is a standard, and we expect that it will change over time as the club evolves. So with that, like I said, we do have 2 topics, so I didn't want to spend too much more time on the business portion of the meeting, but is there any other topics that anyone wanted to discuss for the business portion of the meeting? Yes, Gary.
All right, quickly, I have field day shirts. I have 2 3X shirts. I have 2 large shirts, and I have 1 extra large on sale at bargain prices. I also have 2 SARA shirts in the dark gray. I have a large and a medium. If anybody would like to purchase those, here is the SARA shirt. I actually, Jason is.
I'm wearing a gray SARA
yeah,
shirt.
he's modeling it quite well. This is a large.
What size is it?
Oh,
You know how-
3X.
That's, what's that?
3X.
That's 3X.
All right, and these are our 2021 SARA Field Day shirts.
Scott's got one. We got a model, Gary. We got a model.
This is 2X. So anyway, these are leftovers. If you would like to partake.
How much are they?
Merely a formality. We didn't accept the treasury report.
What size? And what?
All right, so I want to go back. The vice president has kept me honest. I need a motion to approve their treasurer's report. There was so much discussion about the treasurer's report.
Motion.
Bill, second. Jeff. All those in favor of approving the treasurer's report? Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
We approved the treasurer's report.
We will have change.
We didn't do that earlier. So.
All right, Russ, 50-50.
Does anybody have change for a 5?
Yep.
Yeah, we do.
The treasurer always has change. Come on.
Not always.
What are you talking?
There's 3. You want to try it out?
Not to get into that time.
You can give that to the gentleman sitting to the right.
Yeah, I did right now. Yeah, it's DMR's in store.
We collected $165.
Wow.
Yeah, $165. And whatever happened to that is the rest.
All right.
Does everybody get their tickets turned in? Now or huh?
All right, go ahead and draw, Russ, because we have about an hour.
That's 2.
It's like the price is $83. Go ahead.
All right, empty hand. Mixing around.
Oh!
No. Look, there's none here. None here. Don't be saying, oh! Yeah, right. All right, here it is. 2, 2, 4.
Ticket reader.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, then go ahead, Jake.
I thought Russ was going to hit you.
That's because he lost his sausages or something.
Yeah, he's still upset.
2240 92.
No, it should be 3 more.
224-092.
0.
Let one of the kids read.
So what is it, Russ? 224092?
Put your glasses back.
We knew why. 224092, and this one it sort of is like a white, maybe a 1. Come up here and look. Come up there and look.
It's
Tell
got to
me.
be a 3.
Tell me. See that last number? It's just.
Yeah, it's got like a scratchy, 2240921, I guess. What it looks like.
I mean, I wouldn't, yeah, I don't.
These tickets don't have quality.
No, these are not
We
quality
gotta
tickets.
We get somebody?
We're gonna invest $2 to buy better tickets.
Do we have a winner?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn the business meeting?
Adjourn the business meeting, NAWB.
Benny seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
Anybody want to buy some tickets?
All right. Wade's got tickets. All right. I'm going to turn the floor over to Jeff, WATB. He is going to talk a little bit about why you would want to upgrade the general. And then I will be back, and we're going to talk about getting beyond a Bowfang radio. Beyond a Bowfang. I'm going to steal your seat if you don't. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
No, I just said, hey.
Oh, hey. All right. Well, thank you everyone for showing up tonight. We have a record crowd here, and especially with my name on the agenda tonight, I really thank you for showing up. All right. You controlling this one?
No, who's got the control?
Where's the donuts?
We don't have one.
Oh, you just have to hit the slide button, yeah. Next time we will. We'll figure it out.
Like right or left or something?
Right, left arrow.
There it is, right there.
Space bar will move it too.
All right. Okay, tonight's topic, why upgrade to the general class license? And this will be one in a series of our lightning talks that we have. So what we're doing is we're keeping the topics kind of short so that we're not putting everybody to sleep with hour-long topics. So keeping it nice and short. See you, Russ? All right. And so we have a number of these, and this will be my first, actually.
Cool.
All right. So here are just a few reasons to upgrade. First one is, of course, DXing, long-distance communication. So most of you that use the repeaters, you're getting communication within, maybe 20-mile radius of the repeater. And that's really about it, maybe a little bit further depending. With HF and a general class license, now you are going to be able to have long distance communication. So that's anything from a few counties away to a few states away to across the country to basically around the globe. Or and to the moon and back, actually, if you need to. My longest contact is actually to a place near Perth, Australia, to VK6 APK, and it was 11,349 miles. So that's what you can do with HF. And if you know that,
how much power are you?
Actually 100 watts with that, yeah. If you know the circumference of the Earth, you know that that's very near halfway around the globe. So that's what can be done with HF. There are people that can, with the right conditions, do that QRP. Now it's a little more tough to do it that way, but it can be done. And especially if the propagation is good, you can definitely get to many, many places, Europe, Asia, and so forth. And CW as well. The other thing that can go along with that is the associated awards, one of which is called DXCC, stands for DX Century Club. And you get an award for contacting, the first one that they have, for contacting 100 different countries. And it's actually not super difficult. It takes a little while to build it up, but it's a whole lot of fun. You keep getting places, all around. I've learned so much myself about geography, just contacting a lot of these places. I'll contact them and then I'll go look up, where they are. And it's pretty interesting.
There's an amazing amount of really oddly named Spanish islands.
There are
tons of hams on them.
Yes, there are all kinds of places that you're like, wait a minute, where is that? I've never heard of it. And it could be in the middle of some other country that you didn't know there's another little country there that's only 10 miles wide or something. And islands, right. The other thing is with HF and a general license, you can
It's not all indoors contacts. You know, you don't have to be at your stations. There's a lot of stuff that you can do outdoors, and that is parks on the air. That's the first one. And what that is people will take usually lightweight mobile rigs. They will go to a park someplace, and they could be anywhere from, you know, in their car with an antenna outside their car, or somewhere in the park with a small battery to operate, and they activate from the parks. And there's an organization that actually tracks all that as well. And it's pretty neat. You can go to different places and actually make contacts from the parks. The other one you can do is SOTA, which is Summits on the Air. Of course, there's a little bit more involved with that, and some hiking probably. Some places you can drive to, and that's just high places. So, of course, in Ohio, there's not a whole lot, but you can, you know, near us, you know, West Virginia, Virginia, a lot of those places, there's a number of places. If you're vacationing, you can go take a mobile rig and activate there as well. The other one is Islands on the Air. And yes, they can be. You can operate from all over if you're outside the U.S. and also, yes.
There's a Parks on the Air event on this weekend, I believe.
There may be. I don't know, but we can yeah, look into that. And I think possibly that maybe somebody can let me know this. I think maybe even some of the Lake Erie islands are in part of that Islands on the Air as well. So if you're up there, you can activate. And then, of course, one of the, in my opinion, real fun things to do is de-expeditions. And what de-expeditions are groups of people that will get together, usually with sponsorship, sometimes with significant expense of their own, and sometimes with both. And they will travel to usually very far away places, islands, many times. They will maybe have to take air flights to get to some place. They will take chartered ships for days to sail out in sometimes very bad weather to get to a particular island. And then they will have to have all their gear and their provisions and everything they need, batteries, food, water, everything, you know, basically put to shore with skiffs, you know, rubber boats to get in there, because there's no docks, there's no nothing at these places. And then they will operate usually around the clock as best they can around the world, you know, for everybody to contact them. And then hopefully the ships and that will be able to get back in, the weather will hold, and they can get back out of there. But it's very, very interesting. And there's websites available that you can go to that will show when those de-expeditions will be active, because there's usually active, yes.
The Ohio Parks on the Air is September 11th.
Okay.
Of this year,
September 11th.
Yeah.
Parks on the Air.
This weekend too.
Yeah, you can activate any time. Yeah, you can activate the parks anytime, as far as I understand, but they do have special events that they have.
You'll split it. Yeah.
Yes. The other thing is with the general class and moving up to HF, you got multiple modes: upper sideband, lower sideband, amplitude modulation. There are whole groups of folks out there that actually build and restore basically AM transmitters and receivers. And you'll hear them when you get on, and you usually know because they'll be on talking for quite a while before they turn it over to somebody else. So it's not like the repeater where, you know, it's a pretty quick back and forth. Part of the reason for that is some of these rigs are big as a refrigerator and take a big giant handle to actually turn them on. So they're not going to, you know, switch it back and forth with the contacts they have. They'll turn it on and they'll talk for a while. So you'll usually know when you hear that. Also, there, of course, you'll be able to do CW, RIDI, FT8, and a number of other digital modes with the general class as well. So if you know, voice is not your thing and you want to do just digital back and forth, there's tons of activity on FT8 basically everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The other advantage is contesting. And so for those that don't know what that is, contesting involves usually a set time frame, either 24 or 48 hours. The goal is to contact as many other stations as you can, and there will be an exchange of information back and forth, usually very brief. It could be a serial number, it could be a name, it could be, you know, all kinds of stuff, somebody's age. They have all kinds of different rules for it. And one of the nice things about that, actually we have an entire special interest group for contesting in the club, so you can sign up for that. You can kind of see what's going on when events happen. And it's also a very, I would say it's a real nice way to kind of get your feet wet if you're new to operating on HF. Just listen and kind of get the flow of what's going. And you can, two things. One, kind of increase your skills and get more comfortable with making contacts. And number two, it's a very quick way, because there's so much activity on there, and it's a lot of times international as well. It's a very quick way to move up to get your DXCC as well. So you can get a lot of activity when those contests are on. You're usually on the weekends as well. In addition to that, there are various nets and groups, formal and informal, to participate in. I participate in a few different ones fairly regularly, just kind of casually. And I've built up friends from around the country, and have been able to actually meet with them, which is pretty neat, at the Dayton Hamvention, thank you, and Orlando Hamcation. So it was pretty neat to get together. Yes.
If you have a hobby, there's probably a net out there for it. There are that many nets.
Yes, there are tons and tons and tons of nets. There are awards nets where you actually go in and they'll help you make contacts for different kinds of awards, like Worked All States. That's one award as well. And there's just a number of them, from anything from just general rag chewing to anything. And like you said, there's nets on a lot of different topics too. So there's I think there's one on Kenwood, like Kenwood products, and they'll get together and discuss different things about different types of transceivers. The other thing is you'll be doing a lot of this is discovering all the aspects of propagation, and we'll get to that in a slide coming up, and also building and deploying HF antennas. And like I said, because it's wire antennas mostly, it can be done with a few bucks wire and some coax if you're on a budget. You can really get something out there to reach out, and it's not going to cost a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
MCOM, emergency communications, Aries, there's a lot of nets out there, traffic passing.
Yes, on HF, yes, Aries and MCOM stuff. Like you said, traffic passing, there's those nets out there as well. And I forgot about right. If there's hurricanes, bad weather, those nets will come on as well. Just some come on and off depending on conditions like those. All right, with the general class license, you have access of a huge part of the spectrum. Like it says here, all the way down to 2,200 meters, 135 kilohertz, up through 10 meters. And just for grins, for the 2,200 meters, I figured out how long of a dipole you would need for that. And it would be 3,441 feet, or about 2/3 of a mile. They don't use that. They use other techniques to get around that. But, but yeah, we're gonna do. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a 2,200 antenna build. No. Yeah, you might be a bigger at it. Yes, or wrap it around and round. All right. Yes, and there's like I said, an interesting and fun learning curve if you're new to operating on HF frequencies. And one example, as I said here, is skip zones. So unlike the repeater where everybody hears everybody pretty much, oftentimes you'll hear a reasonably loud station talking to someone, but you'll hear absolute silence on the other end, or you just barely hear someone. And this is something you get used to, and it's why you always listen and listen some more before you ask if the frequency's clear, because a lot of times you'll turn on the rig and you'll be on a frequency and you'll hear nothing, but there is actually a QSO going on because you're just not hearing the other side of the QSO. So, and I put this in here too, and Jason kind of alluded to this earlier, is all the members here are really happy to help guide you through any of the process from anything from studying for the general to helping you pick out equipment to really anything. So if you got questions, just ask any of us, and we're more than happy
Taking
to
the
help.
test.
Taking the test,
Yeah.
and this gentleman right here will help you. Well, he'll score you anyway.
Yes. One of the scores.
One of the scores. All right. And I think probably a lot of folks have seen this. Hopefully it's showing up a little bit. This is the U.S. amateur radio bands. Of course, with the general, you're now going to get, you've got all these with tech, 2 meters, 6 meters, little slice of 10 meters. But when you start getting down in here, the HF range, you'll get basically all of 12 meters, a big hunk of 15, all of 17, a good chunk of 20, 30, good chunk of 40, of course 60 meters, pretty good chunk of 80, 100, and 100, all of 160, which is where I like to play. But that is, you get all of that with the general. So quite a bit. There's only really between general and extra, there's just a little slices of stuff you get with the extra. So with the general, you're getting what 90% of everything you would want, and that's really where all the contesting activity, and it's where most of the activity is anyway. So talking about propagation a little bit, of course, HF propagation, as I say, can be highly variable compared to other frequencies. Normally, we don't have that much is going on with repeaters. Once in a while, if the band is really up, we'll get other repeaters kind of coming in on our repeaters, vice versa. But for the most part, that's not going to happen. With HF, you definitely have stuff to think about. And the greatest challenge is finding the optimum frequency for the intended destination and current propagation conditions. So there are 3 propagation modes: line of sight, which is what we're mostly used to with repeaters, of course. And then for HF, we're doing basically 2 things, mostly sky wave, but also ground wave. So with ground wave, depending on what the frequency is, you can have communication with someone without going skywave on, let's say, 160 meters, for example. You might have ground wave going out 50 miles. Where at 10 meters, you're going to get a few miles. You're not going to get very far with ground wave. And for everything else, of course, you're going to have skywave. Skywave is where your signal is going to go up, bounce off the ionosphere, which the first layers start at about 30 miles up. And it will then come down after it bounces off, and it will come down somewhere else around the world. It may take multiple hops as well. It may go up, come down, and that's kind of how we make it around a lot of times to very distant places. And I talked about the skip zone earlier, and if you look at this, you can see right in here would be, this person close to you, you would hear them. This person, you're going to have communication with. But if somebody's in the center, they may not hear either folks, or this person may hear this transmitter, but they may not hear another transmitter because it's skipping over the top of them. And one of the other things with getting a general license and getting into HF is you will have lots of fun either buying or building and then deploying a wire antenna. And as I said, if you have a yard with some room and a tree or two, you would be amazed at the type of antennas you can use. You can put up dipoles. You can do like I do, and I've put up an end-fed antenna in an inverted L configuration. So very easy to feed it near the ground. It just goes up and over, so you don't have the full length you would have to go from A to B. You've just got the vertical portion and then horizontal portion. So if you have a yard where you don't have quite as much room, it works very nice. If you're restricted, you can still operate with wire antennas in attics and other inside spaces. And you can do like Javen does. And even though he has this antenna in his attic, he basically just completely skunks us in contesting because he can. So don't be afraid to try that if that's your option, because there's people sitting here that have done it and done it well. Verticals, ground-mounted verticals also work if you have a semi-restricted yard as well. Just a ground-mounted tall vertical antenna for HF will work. And if you have, like I said, if you have the room, the willingness, and of course a few wheelbarrows full of cash, you can put up a tower or beams. Actually, like I say, with gently used equipment and the right planning, can be really less expensive than you would imagine. So it's not undoable if you have the willingness. All right, as far as exam requirements for the general class license, it is 35 questions, written exam, element 3, and you get all the license privileges, like we discussed before, 10 through 160 meters, with the exception of the extra class areas. And the only thing here is that the general class license, it's the second of 3 licenses. And to hold a general class, you must already hold a technician class, or you can, at the same exam setting, and a lot of people have done this, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've taken the technician and the general at the same time and passed both, and upgraded to general right at the same exam.
You can also use your expired license from that date. I always forget the date, but the FCC gives you that option too. If your license expired, what was it?
Sometime before 83.
Yeah, before 83, you can actually turn. We had one in the last event who turned that in. He came in, he passed the tech class, and he got his general without even taking the general class. Because he had his expired license.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's yet another option on there. So not you can do it. So as far as study resources, your first resource is probably the ARRL. You can access the website online, find just about everything you need. They've got stuff out there for training. They've got practice tests. There's just go to the website. I could have listed a whole pile of stuff up here, but if you just go Google and go to the website, you'll find pretty much everything you need out there. They also have a book that you can get, it's the ARRL General Class License Manual 9th edition from their website or Amazon. Yes?
I got that general class license, but you gotta watch out. They made a mistake in the math part.
Okay.
They said 5,000 plus 750 made 10,750. They forgot to print 2 times 5,000.
Right.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up because
there was a typo there.
Yep, I'm glad you brought that up because one thing that you want to look for, especially if you have the book, is of course when these books go to print, sometimes they've made a mistake. They didn't catch it, like you say. There are addendums in the book and corrections in it, and make sure you go there and read those because it'll say, oh, question 23 is wrong. It should be this, or whatever it is. And there's generally a couple of them in there at least where you need to go there and take a look so you're not steered in the wrong direction.
That
Yes.
is on page 4-18.
Okay. Yes, sir.
That typo. Also,
Yeah.
make sure you're using the right question pool.
Right.
Yes, the most recent question pool.
Right.
The most recent question pool. Thank you. There are apps available for a smartphone. There's a number of them out there. One that I've used and I could recommend, there's many of them there, is called HRE General. And there's actually 3 of them. There's an HRE Tech, HRE General, and HRE Extra. And the app has test questions that you can review. You can take practice section tests or the full test all on your phone. And it scores you each time, lets you know how you're doing, and lets you know when you're ready to take the test. I particularly liked it on the phone because it made it. I have the phone with me most of the time, and it made it easy where in between different things I can I can study. Yes, ma'am.
I found the AARL books rather hard to follow. I've gotten all 3 of mine using Gordon West.
Gordon West. Yeah.
Gordon West is another, and thank you very much. I forgot to mention that one. Gordon West is another great resource. In fact, probably goes in more depth even than the ARL. Yeah. Right, and to explain it a little better. Yes. So
Good
Gordon
guy.
West is another one.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, like I said, this is going to be a quick talk. Final thoughts. Why upgrade to the general class? Well, why not? It's relatively easy. Whole new areas for you to discover for amateur radio. So, not just HF, but all the things that go along with it. There's 1,000 different facets out there that you can explore.
So I just wanted to, anybody that's going to take your test and you're studying for the tech and you're starting to get really high numbers on your tech license and you pass your tech that day, you're allowed to go to the next test all the way up to extra for no extra cost. So take the general just in case. We're here to, that's what our job is. We're here to just help you out with those. So take it anyways, because there's been a couple people who've gone in and taken it and gotten the general at the same day that they've taken the tech.
From my perspective, a good hunk of the general class test is already the technician test. So it's just kind of a little bit added on to it. So if you're going for the technician, you might want to go ahead and just study for the general as well. And if you find that it's easy enough for you, then boom, you're right in, and you have the general class license.
Definitely, a good point to that is to give you a chance to feel what the general test is.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like taking practice.
We had a police officer that came in this last session, and he did study for his tech and his general. He got both, and just as a fluke, he took the extra. He didn't pass, but he said he knew what to look forward to. Yeah.
All right. Any questions or comments or anything? If not, I will turn it over to Jason, and you can take it from there.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, for our last bit of discussion here this evening.
Can I bring up a question real quick, Jason?
Sure.
Eric was saying something about there's some kind of ham fest this weekend. Anybody know anything
Norris
about
Fest.
it?
Norris
Norris
Fest
Fest?
at the Lorraine Community College at 9:00 in the morning.
What day?
Saturday.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Norris Fest.
Norris Fest?
Yeah, Norris Fest. Lorraine Community College in Lorraine, Ohio. Lorraine County, Ohio. Well, actually, I believe it's in Lorraine as well.
Norris.org.
Norris.org.
So the last one tonight. This is what this talk is kind of titled "Moving Beyond the Bowfang," and that's really just a tongue-in-cheek comment because there's a lot of people that have bowfangs and they work fine. But this talk is really about. We get a lot of questions about. Well, I bought this, and a lot of times they hold up a bowfang. I bought this on Amazon, and I kind of use it. But it's hard to use. What should I really buy? So this is the talk to address that. So. I mentioned this last month, and you'll hear about this. Some people will get very agitated if you say, I have a Bowfang radio. It's a very reasonable first radio, right? Especially if you're not sure this is the hobby you want to get into. It's $35, $40, whatever it is. If you lose the charger, everyone's okay. There are some deficiencies, though, to keep in mind. So the audio quality is very poor unless you do modifications to the microphone, which also run the risk of destroying the microphone, and those are not easy to fix. One of the things is the transmissions are very wide, so their front end isn't very good. So what actually happens is you're broadcasting on your frequency and like all the frequencies around you. So while your radio is probably spending 5 watts of energy, you're not spending 5 watts of energy on the channel you're actually trying to talk onto. And a lot of people find the user interface annoying and difficult. Now, no one in our club is going to say, "Oh, ham radio isn't a Bowfang," which is things you'll hear in other places. If it's the radio you have and you like it and it works, it's great. Keep using it. But we're going to take a look at some of the other things that are out there. And like I said, we get this question a lot. What should I buy? I want to put in a mobile. I want to put in something at home. I want to put something in my car. I want to get into HF. What do you want to get into? And the question answer is, well, it depends. And really the question is, what do you really want to do? So the question is not what radio should I buy? The question you have to ask yourself is, what do I really want to do? And then what do I need to accomplish that? The other question is how much do you really want to spend? So like many hobbies, ham radio you can do for cheap, or you can invest your entire life savings in it. Right? Have in mind what you think you want to spend. Ham radio is not going to be the cheapest hobby, that you're going to get involved with, but it's not, you don't have to go crazy. If you flip open like, DX Engineering or ham radio outlets catalogs, well, outlets catalogs never have prices in them, but if you go online and you look at the prices, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so expensive. Yeah, but a lot of that stuff's more the top of the line kind of gear. There's tons of used stuff we'll talk about, but have an idea of what you want to spend in mind. Are you looking at spending $200? Are you looking at spending $1,000? Are you looking at spending $5,000? You can get into stuff at basically any reasonable price point.
I think Jason was bringing up the fact too, where you buy it at depends on how they stand behind you.
Right.
And what you buy. So that's the key issue too. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got my open at Christmas time. I'm 41 years in CB radio, and I thought it was a CB radio, and I don't know that to hand. It was really good, Jay and them heard me on it. But the bad part is the instruction book. They don't give you enough information.
Right.
There you go.
That's the user. That's the user interface question.
That's true.
Yeah. So.
But the honest truth is, I got an ICOM 2300, came with a sheet tape.
Worse than the one I got. I got a little.
So if you do a lot of online reading about ham radio stuff, a lot of the stuff you're going to find online is written by one of two classes of people. One is the hardcore operators who are running full legal limit stations with racks and racks of equipment, and they're worried about like intermod between like the jumper cable to your 7300, between that and your 1500 watt amp. And they're going to say, oh, you shouldn't buy a whatever radio because in my experience, when I'm blasting myself with RF, whatever. The other one is there's a lot of people who do like I want to do the radio on a budget kind of thing. And you find these people in every hobby. I don't really need to spend X hundreds of dollars because I can do it with this thing, right? A lot of what you're going to read online is from those two perspectives. But if you dig through stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's in the middle ground. The 90% use case is much, much more reasonable in the middle somewhere.
You can also do a pretty decent job of getting used equipment if you're buying it from somebody, like if you buy somebody from something from someone in the club, this club, you can pretty much rest assured you're not going to be lied to or,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, I have some used equipment recommendations in here.
Okay.
So yeah. So in terms of dollar investment, right? Because people say, well, what should I spend my money on? I know what I want to do. I know how much I want to spend. What should I spend my money on? So this is sort of the in priority order when you're looking at what do I want to spend more money on than less money on. This is the order you should take a look at. Number one is feed line. We're going to cover that in a minute. Second one is the radio. The third one is your power supply, because almost all ham radios are DC power. You can't just walk up and plug them into the wall. And the fourth one is antennas. And we'll talk about that too, but like Jeff said in his general talk, you can do tons and tons of stuff with a wire. I mean, I have a similar with Jeff. I've talked to stations in New Zealand, the Cook Islands, the geographic South Pole. I have a wired dipole that I spent $20 on at Home Depot. And then after we melted my Ballon at the 40th anniversary party that cost $30, I bought a good Ballon and a feed line. So I have maybe $100 invested in this antenna, and I can talk to basically anybody I want to. So this is sort of the priority order of things to take a look at. So here's why I put feed line first. Feed line is something that a lot of people don't really think about, but actually has one of the strongest bearings on the performance of the state of your station. And we're talking specifically here about coaxial cable, which is the most prevalent and by far easiest type of feed line to deploy. If you're looking at ladder line or heliax, I mean, we're not even talking about that, right? So coax is what most people are going to install. So I pulled up some examples. You'll hear a lot of people talk about RG8X and U, right? LMR 400 sort of the bigger stuff. If you were at field, no, thanks, Jim. If you were at field day, and you were you were helping us wire stuff. All the cables we use at Field Day are LMR 400. And here's why: this is a loss. So you can, if you take especially if you take the general class test, we'll talk about system loss and effective radiated power. Everything's measured in decibels here. This is the loss that the power of your signal will take just going through the wire. So if you think about what you learned in high school physics or whatever, you're taught to think that wire is just this magical conduit of electrons, and for DC over some reasonable distance, that's true. But anything else, your signal starts to degrade as it travels down a wire, right? So where this comes into play is for short runs, this really doesn't matter except for UHF. So UHF being like 220, 440, those kind of frequencies. But if you're doing any longer runs, 50 feet or more, the losses start to matter. And the higher the frequency, the losses add up a lot faster. Now you might say, well, I don't need 50 feet of cable. If you're going to put a station in your house and put an antenna on the roof, you'll be surprised at how quickly you go past that 50 feet. From my basement to the shack to where I have the antenna mounted on the end of my garage, I have a 100-foot run of coax. And I took the most efficient route possible to get there. When you start mapping out the slack and coming down the wall and going around the eave and up the pole, you're going to get to this 100 feet or more pretty quickly. So why does this matter? So I'm going to look at this as the most extreme example. So we're just going to use this as the example for this discussion. So 440 megahertz is UHF. That's the UHF repeaters. If you use 8x coax, right, which is sort of this middle grade of coax, your loss is 9 dB. So what's a dB? It's complicated, but the result is if you have, so most base stations will do 35 watts out on UHF. If you use an RG8X line, your signal when it gets to your antenna is only about 3.7 watts. So you've lost a tremendous amount of transmission in that cable. Now, max that up with LMR 400. LMR 400 is probably going to be about twice-ish the cost, maybe not quite, of this, but a 3 dB loss at that same 35 watts only ends up being about 17 watts. Now, obviously, there's antenna gain, which is a whole other discussion. That's how you bring that back up. But you got to remember, the antenna gain only matters by what you actually get to the antenna, right? Same thing with 2 meters, 144 megahertz in the 2 meter range. The standard mobile base station puts out 50 watts. If you use RG8X, 17 watts makes it to your antenna. LMR 400, more about 35. And these are rough numbers, right? There's lots of stuff that goes into it, but this is just sort of a rough back of the envelope calculation. So that's why feed line's at the top of the list. DX Engineering, for example, has a really nice LMR 400 cable. They call it DX 400 Max or something like that. The price is reasonable. You can drive over and get it. But my whole shack is actually all. I'll give you a plug. All cabling in my shack is brought to you by DX Engineering.
Yay,
yeah, Dave.
Just quickly, can you just touch on the difference between the two types of cable as far as flexibility and damaging the cable, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so LMR 400 is heavier. It has a slightly larger bend radius, which means you can't bend it quite as far. And it has a habit of being twisty. If you coil it and uncoil it, it doesn't relax nicely. So for example, for my HF antenna, I have a 132-foot off-center fed dipole. I actually run LMR 400 out of the shack, around the house, up the post, and then where I have it transition, it flies up to the tree. I actually put a piece of RG8U on the end of it because it's much lighter. So, and you can do stuff like that. Like in my case, I have the LMR 400 for the good signal out as far as I can go, but then I use the 8U that's real light to get up to the tree. So, yes, I mean, that's why they make different kinds of cables, right? It's not just one cable's good and one cable's bad. There's different applications, but in general, you want to look at what you're trying to do and put feet on. Again, if you're going to sit in your bedroom and you're going to stick a mag mount outside your window, you're going, what, 10 feet? Your feed line doesn't matter. Your feed line, the loss in the feed line is going to be negligible, right? So just to kind of press on here, because we're running short on time, radio considerations for HT. Basically, any mainline vendor, so that's Yaesu, Kenwood, ICOM, and Alinco. Those are sort of the four main manufacturers of radios. We'll probably have a much more intuitive user interface, and you can get support much easier for those types of radios. They all have good programming interfaces. The ICOM, especially the ICOM programming software, is actually really nice to use. Yaesu's is okay. There's a program called Chirp, which is an open source software that works really well. It's very easy. The user interface on both of these is very friendly. We get asked a lot about digital modes, DMR, D-Star, Fusion. Unless you know that you really, really want to get into like DMR, for example, because you have friends on DMR, don't worry about buying a radio with digital capabilities. In most cases, most people will spend most of their time doing analog FM unless you're really into some particular mode. Now new radios, so like the recommendation I have here, the FT3DR is a system fusion radio, so it's going to have both analog and system fusion built into it. If you buy an ICOM, the 51 or there's a couple. Those will have D-Star built into them. There DMR, you can do dual band with DMR, but it's kind of unpleasant because you have to program all the channels in. So it works, but again, in general, unless you really know that you want to do something with digital specifically, I would take this happens to have system fusion on it as a nice to have, right? Look at carefully battery size and charging. For example, the Yaesu comes with a really nice battery stock. The ICOM stock battery is very small. You will immediately want to buy the upgrade, which costs, between that and the charging cradle, costs half as much as you spend on the radio. I don't know why. That's just how they do it.
Welcome to Yaesu.
Huh?
Welcome to Yaesu.
Yeah, welcome to Yaesu. The one thing with used, be wary of used HTs, mostly because you don't know what has happened to them. I can't tell you how many times I've dropped my HT, right? That's not to say that all used HTs are bad. If you know someone who took good care of it, or like I never really took this out of the box, it's one of those things, know what you're getting into, right? So these are my personal recommendations. If you want to stay lower, the Yaesu FT60R is a great radio. It's a tank. You'll have that radio for 20 years. You can buy parts, batteries, all kind of accessories for it. This and the FT60 that predated it has been around, I don't even know how long. It's been around for a long time. If you want to buy new, slightly more features, the FT3DR, in my opinion, is sort of the best HT right now. That's not like the Kenwood, the D74, I forgot what it's called. That's a nice radio. They discontinued. Oh, okay, so now it's discontinued, and it was crazy expensive. It was a nice radio that was insanely priced. This will have system fusion. This has APRS on it. It's a really nice radio. It fits really nice in the hand. There's other HTs. Anything from ICOM, Yaesu, Kenwood, Alinco are going to work fine. These are two I like. Any questions on this? Gary.
Comment. John at NCD has a series of reviews of older radios. Well, it's some newer radios as well. How many? 8?
There's 8 or 9 up there on the website.
Different reviews if you're looking for some insight into different radios. If you're looking for a new radio or a different one, check those out. John does a great job with some of his technical writing.
And that's on the SARA website.
Oh, did I say that? No.
W8WKY.org.
Yeah. So for mobile, base state mobiles or base UHF, most people will do a mobile radio in the shack. I mean, they make like base console type radios like the ICOM 9100 and some of those.
97.
Or 9700, yeah. Most people don't do that, right? Unless there's a feature or model that you really want. In this case, it's pretty reasonable to look used first. Most of these radios have sat on somebody's desk or have been ridden around in somebody's car. They don't get dropped. They don't get banged around. You know, if you want to replace the hand mic, that's not expensive. You know, that's the thing that's going to break on these kind of things. QRZ.com or eBay, both are good places. As always with any online purchasing of used stuff, watch out for all the red flags of things. If you're looking for it, if you want to use it in the house, one of the things, if you think you might want to get into like some of the digital modes or APRS, look for a radio that has it'll be variously called like the TNC port or the ACC port or the data port on the back. That's how you break the audio out to your computer. That's on the nice to have list. Some recommendations. Again, if you want to buy new, the ID 4100A is a really nice radio. That's kind of it's at the lower end of sort of the premium kind of mobile radio. The IC 2730A is a nice lower end icon. I'll tell you, if you want to go use and you can find one, and note I have the little unicorn up here. The Yaesu FT8900 has been around forever. I don't know why Yaesu ever discontinued it. I have this in my shack. This is a fantastic radio. If you talk to anyone who has an 8900 or the 8800 that was a predecessor, these are rock solid radios. If you can find one at a reasonable price that's in good condition, you literally will not ever go wrong buying that. I don't know why Yaesu discontinued them. I thought they were crazy for discontinuing them. Any questions on mobile stuff? All right, so HF. Unless you're really, really interested in historical radios, do not buy anything that was made before around mid-2000s, 2005. Not because they're bad, but just because they're old. Capacitors start to dry out. Unless you really want to tear something down, and replace tubes and components, you don't really want to go back that way. Now, if you're there's a lot of people who are into the older radios, they like to refurb the radios. That's great. I mean, there's a lot of fun there. I would not recommend making that your first HF transceiver unless you know that's really already what you want to get into. A lot of them are now SDR or semi-SDRs, and those with those and with the DSPs that are built into them make a world of difference. The audio filtering to filter out noise and to create little filters to grab only the audio you want is just amazing what you can do with some of these modern radios. With these, again, don't be afraid to go used. One of the things is non-smoking. Whether or not you're a smoker or not, I mean, I guess if you're a smoker, it doesn't matter, but there's a lot of used radios that smell really bad and the smell does not come out. You can kind of look for cosmetic blemishes and dials on the screen to see, was it beat around? Again, these radios are sitting on someone's desk. They're really not getting beat around. The one thing is be wary of Mars mod radios. What that means is that's a radio that's usually there's a resistor or a diode that locks it into the ham frequencies. There are other radio licenses you can get that allows you to transmit outside the ham frequencies. Some people will sell them as Mars mod or air cap or cap mod, things like that. Not that those are necessarily bad, and a lot of people won't tell you that their radio had a Mars mod in it. But if someone's specifically selling it as a Mars mod, you might want to ask them who did it, because it usually involves like pulling out a diode that's about that big.
And Cap no longer does that, by the way. We have a guy in our MCOM club from Medina, and Cap has their own radio now. They stopped doing the mods for Cap.
Yeah, but you can still buy them.
You can buy them, but I mean, they're not going to.
Because I modded my 7300 because I have a shares license.
Yeah.
But I know I did it right.
Right.
But sometimes people go in there with a soldering iron and try to grab it. Yeah. So, and the other thing is you can do really well used with these. HF transceivers are like golf clubs and cars. There's a whole ton of people that want the latest one, whether they need it or not. As soon as Yaesu or ICOM or Kenwood come out with their new model,
705.
The used market just gets flooded. Again, eBay, QRZ. If you're looking to buy new, you really can't beat the 7300 if you're willing to spend that amount of money. It's an absolutely fantastic radio. There's a number of club members who have one. Incredible radio. You can get them used. I looked real quick. They're going for used on QRZ for about $800. And FT 891 is another one. That one holds its value well. I can't even begin to list all the possible radios that fall into this category. There's lots of really good used HF equipment out there. You're going to spend $300 to $500 on one. Let's see.
I think we're close.
Yeah, we're right at time. Power supplies. I'm going to put these up on the website. This is a reasonably good power supply. It's not the world's greatest, cleanest power supply, but it's not noisy. It doesn't destroy your signal. You don't need a $600 solid state power supply to get on the air. Learn to love Anderson power poles. We might do a whole topic on Anderson power poles. For antennas, dipoles work really well. Like I said, mine's a 14 gauge Home Depot special. A good balance is helpful. People will get very concerned about NVIS, which is my antenna's too low and I'm shooting all my radiation up there. Please don't worry about that. That's really not, unless you're like going for super contesting, you're not going to care. Like some people will get very, very worried about this. Don't get too worried about this. When you have to worry about it, you'll already understand when you have to worry about it. Standard dipoles, inverted V's. I really like the off-center fed dipoles because you can tune them up on a lot of bands. If you have a smaller footprint, there's an antenna called the G5RV and some derivatives. I'm not a big fan of those, but they do work. So, if you have some space considerations. For UHF, VHF, height is more important than gain. So a less good antenna up in the air is going to be better than a really good antenna you have on the ground. And know where you have to go and don't overbuild or buy. I mean, you can buy these huge 20-foot VHF antennas, and if you want to talk on the repeater in Akron, there was no point to that. You can make a homemade J-pole. The club has plans for that. The Comet GP1 or the GP3, the Diamond X30, those are all about $60 to $100 if you want to put something like that up. If you really want to get a nice upgrade for your HT, the SRH 701A for handhelds is really nice. It's a really nice upgrade to the rubber duck on the top of your thing. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah. Now, other than that big building on there, they will let me have an antenna outside and stuff like that. I don't want it. Do they have indoor antennas like that? I know CB radios, they got an indoor antenna.
Yeah, you can.
I don't want to hand they got it.
Yeah, you can put antennas inside. Just don't put it right next to your head. But, you can put it inside.
I read that out there.
So.
I know, but guys, different folks who just put a J-pole on top of like a camera tripod.
Yep.
And that works.
Yep. It's the SRH 701. I'm going to put these online. I hate to draw it short, but we do have to be out of here basically right now. So I'll hang around after we pack up. I'll hang around outside if you have any questions. Like I said, all these slides will be up on the club website. So anyway, thank you for coming. If you have questions, thank you, Jason.